Welcome everybody. We'll get started here in about 45 seconds. All right, happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the LockLeft SAVI webinar. My name is Tyler, and I'm going to share with you 3 ways that you can improve your defense this summer, this season, using the LockLeft. And I'm very excited to do it. We've got a number of questions that came in for this webinar as well that I'll be hitting via email. We'll basically go through 3 different stages. Stage 1 is I'm going to give just a brief overview. For those of you that might be new to the LockLeft, a brief overview of a couple of reports of teams that ran the LockLeft and had some success with the last season. Then we'll go into the 3 ways that I think here in the next 45 minutes you can make your defense better using a couple elements of the LockLeft. And then lastly, I'll take questions from our live viewers, as well as the emailed in and texted in and community questions from our SAVI Coaching community who are there in the app as well. So let's dive in. LockLeft is going to help you take advantage of the weaknesses of your opponent. It will force your opponent to show that they've taught their team how to play principle-based basketball and not just top and plays. The whole goal of the LockLeft is to blow up sets, to blow up continuity, and to make your opponent play basketball, make reads, play in limited space, make quick decisions. And so it really forces the other coach to show that they know how to teach the game and not just teach plays. And that's what we love about the LockLeft. And it works at every level of play. Now, it works best at the lowest levels of play, and it has its least effectiveness at the highest levels of play, but it still is effective. And let me give you an example of this. We actually just got a report from one of our college women's programs that put the LockLeft in for the first time this last season, and they went from 6 wins to 24 wins in their first season of LockLeft. And coach said that, yeah, they upgraded their talent, but there are about 8 wins that they would not have won without the LockLeft. Nationally, this is a junior college, nationally, they were number 2 nationally in 3-point field goal percentage defense. Significant improvement. They were top 5 in defensive efficiency, top 12 in steals, and ended up finishing number 2 in their conference. And the reason I share that with you is because if you just implement these 3 things, I've seen it from the high school to the college level, that just if you implement these 3 things, you're going to force your opponent to show that they know how to teach, force the opposing coach to show they know how to teach. And it's very, very simple to do. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'll share one more thing before I share these 3 pieces for you. I've been doing a lot of statting and asking a lot of our LockLeft coaches to do statting. And the overarching principle of it doesn't matter if it's baseline, it doesn't matter if it's middle, it doesn't matter if it's sideline, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters other than we want to lock them left, because 90% of players are right-handed and they're less efficient when they go to their left hand. And to prove this point, there's 2 reasons why it works. To prove this point, what we found is over the course of 5 games or so, we found that at the youth levels, at like the middle school level, at the youth level, 85% of all points scored are a product of right-handed drives. Either the right-hand drive finishes, there's a foul, or there's a kick out to a wide-open 3 or a dump down to a wide-open layup off the right-hand drive. Just better vision, more straight-line drives, more aggressive attacks. 85% of all points scored in the games, both teams. Whereas when you get to like an elite high school level, like a really good varsity level, 75% of all points scored come off of right-hand drives. And when you get up to the college level, it's 65%, which is still significant. So at its core, we just want to turn all right-hand drives into left-hand drives. So let's talk about 3 ways that you can do that a little more effectively. And we have some film that we're going to be breaking down as well. Here's number 1. Improve your transition by basketball, danger, and load up. And here's what I mean by basketball danger. regardless of what you do in transition, whether you're dropping back into a zone, whether you're manning up, whatever you're doing in transition, pressing, whatever, there's a percentage of possessions during the game where there's confusion, where a player is out of position, there's miscommunication, there's a percentage of time, a moment in time, really every possession, where the defense is disorganized. And disorganized defense in transition is going to be most hurtful to you when you don't get the ball. And so we build the LockLeft transition defense ball back, as opposed to basket out. Instead of having everyone running back to the basket and trying to plug the paint and protect the rim, we believe in identifying threats early. And the earlier you can identify and address threats, the more success you're going to have in your transition defense. And the most threatening thing is the basketball. And so we address the basketball by identifying our best on-ball defender that trains on this all season long as what we call our wolf. It's the wolf's job to pick up the basketball as early as possible on makes, misses, whatever, whoever their point guard is, whoever's bringing the ball before, and to never get beat, but to begin to influence the ball left. And just by doing that, we address the most dangerous threat initially. And that buys extra time for everyone else to filter in behind our transition defense. Now, the second thing in our transition defense is we want to identify the best player. Once we identify the ball, we identify the other team's best player. And based on where that player is on the floor, we're going to figure out who's going to actually end up matching up with that player. And so that's how we really improve our transition defense, and that's how I think you can improve your transition defense as well. Is instead of saying someone has to get the basketball, or you have that player, and when your player gets the ball, you have to get the basketball, we're actually looking for a defensive mismatch. We want our best defender on the ball handler, regardless of who the ball handler is, and we will then match up behind them. Basketball first, danger second, most dangerous player. And when we do that in transition, we're going to have a lot more success. So here is a visual that I think will really help in how we do this within the LockLeft. Now, obviously, in our online course and all of our video examples that you can get at SAVICoach.com, you can go to our SAVI Coach app and get instant access right now to all the drills, the install, or how you can actually do LockLeft really, really well. But layer one is lock the ball. And whether it's off a made shot or missed shot, when the ball gets outletted to the blue team, wherever they are on the floor, our wolf is coming up and they're not pressuring, they're not turning, they're just influencing to make sure that this ball is influenced up the left-hand side of the floor. We're influencing early. Now, from there, we have our gap that is going to be going and plugging the gap to the left of the basketball. Left as the offense is looking. And we have our deny that is early identifying any threat, maybe a best player running up the right-hand side of the floor, and they're not allowing any hit-ahead pass. The gap's job is to make sure that they plug the gap, they stop anything to the rim, and no one gets to the rim. And from there, they're matching up. Wolf first, gap and deny second, and then filtering behind, usually the ones that might be crashing the yellow boards, filtering behind are what we call our bear and our wall. Bear is getting back to the cave, protecting the rim, matching up with their rim runner. And our wall is our cleanup player. Our wall's going to be trailing in behind, and whichever way that we can designate the ball, let's say that we do end up locking the ball left and designate the ball, we're plugging the gap right there. Trailer's coming in behind, the deny is going to come and deny one pass to the right. The wall always is matching up with the furthest offensive player from the basketball, which actually leads us into point number two. If one, we can play really well in transition. Point number two is this. Your defense will be successful if you can finish with a defensive rebound. Now, for example, in the game last night, heartbreaking loss for the Miami Heat. In the game last night, immediately people were blowing up the Miami Heat saying you have to box out. When they got that offensive rebound, the Celtics and Derek White got that putback, like box out, you have to box out, box out. And what I found is most often teams are poor on the defensive glass, not because they failed to box out, but because their defense got compromised earlier in the possession. So it's more about positioning and less about the act of boxing out. And if your defense is compromised, you get out of position if the offensive players get by you or inside you, get inside position because you're compromised and had to help and had to trouble being a good defensive rebounding team because the offense got inside position. The outcome of a good lock left possession is that we're able to build a wall. And when we can build a wall and lock the ball to the left-hand side of the floor, what we guarantee is inside rebounding position when the shot gets taken from the left side of the floor. Because we built a 2 or 3 person wall up the middle of the floor so that when a shot goes up, that wall then can just move and carve out space around the rim for any misses that might bounce to the weak side of the floor. But if we get into a situation where the ball can be shot from anywhere and we can't load up help and we can't build a wall, then we're going to be given up inside position. If we're in constant rotation because we're being compromised and having to help, well, then we're going to be in trouble because we're going to have smaller players digging down and trying to box out bigger players. So defensive rebound is more of an audit and a grade on your defensive positioning than it is on your ability to actually box out. And so that's what we try to do here in the LockLeft, and I'll show you exactly what I mean with building a wall. If I find the right tab. There we go. All right, here's a great example right here. So even in transition, we want to see how quickly we can lock the ball to the left-hand side of the floor so that we can shrink the floor and build a wall. So here's a great example. They're able to get the ball to the left-hand side of the floor early. Their defensive rebounding is going to be more successful if they can limit ball reversals. We all know we want to limit ball reversals, but why? Because every time the ball gets reversed, we compromise our position. We can't load up as much help. We want to try to get more bodies in less space. That's the value of having 5 players on defense. It's easier to score 1-on-1 than it is in 5-on-5. It's easier to score 3-on-3 than it is 5-on-5 because there's less bodies and more space. So the trick of being a good defensive team is just about loading up more bodies and less space. But it's really hard to do that when the offense can have quick ball movement. You don't know where to load up. It's really hard to do that when the offense can attack either side because you don't know where to load up the help too. It's really hard to do that when you don't train one thing over and over, which is start speed and lock the ball into jail. Jail being a below the break sideline here. The ball just entered into jail right there. The ball's now in jail. The moment the ball gets in jail, we know that we're going to load up and build a wall. So we see a couple of things here that we teach in the LockLeft. There's actually some questions coming up about this one. We see Paul George here, one pass to the right in a position that we call deny. But we teach deny differently. We teach deny how most great defenders naturally do it and how most high-level teams do it, especially pro teams. We teach chest to ball. When you're away from the basketball, we teach chest to ball. So we would just teach Paul George to get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit, but not a lot, a little bit more aggressive in his deny. Now, old school deny would be closer, on the line, up the line, back to the ball. We want to actually be further up the line, and we want to be chest to ball, primarily because we're trying to lock the ball to the side of the floor. We're trying to help discourage any penetration to the right hand while also being able to make a play on any pass to the right. And we will start chest to the ball, elbows and boxes. Here he is on the elbow. But as we get a little bit more comfortable, we actually want that chest to ball deny to creep out into the passing lane a little bit more. The next thing is you'll see that as the ball gets deeper into jail, you'll see that we have a wall built. This is what we call a wall. They have built a wall of inside position. All 3 are chest to the ball. Anyone off the ball in the LockLeft is playing chest to ball. You can still sneak peeks at your player. You can still have your head on a swivel. You can still try to have some peripheral vision. But a wall is 3 players on the weak side building a wall to not allow the ball to cross the wall, to not allow their players to cut or crash through the wall, and we're not allowing a reversal out of the wall. This is the goal of every LockLeft possession. Put the ball in jail, and the on-ball defender doesn't do a great job keeping the ball in jail here. He allows a baseline drive. We want to keep the ball in jail. Put the ball in jail and build a wall. And if we do go from that baseline drive, then we can continue to build that wall at the rim with our low wall player coming over contest, getting inside position, keeping inside position. This is carving out space for a defensive rebound, and it's why they're able to finish the defensive rebound. Let's take a look at it one more time. This is what it means to build a wall. Every possession, can you build a wall? Building a wall is less about help and even more about finishing the defensive rebound. build a wall across the paint, keep the ball on one side and keep bodies on the other. Okay, here's a second example of building a wall. So as we come off of this ball screen action, they're in a bit of a drop coverage, very good, but they weak the ball screen, which is what we teach in LockLeft, is to weak the ball screen 100% of the time. Really nice job again, everyone having their chest to ball. Any pass to the left, we want to plug the gap. So really good plugging the gap here. We're plugging the gap just to show bodies and squeeze. We're not plugging the gap to help. We're going to be sprinting on this pass and sprinting off the wall here. A really good job. Now we're able to get the ball in jail. And again, we see chest to the ball. It's because the ball is what's dangerous. It's the ball that scores. When we put our chest to the player, we have less of a presence on the ball. The ball is first and foremost in everything we do in the LockLeft. That's why we play chest to ball. That was one of the questions. And he's taken away that pass. And, I would have just liked to see a little bit more of an elbow here. So he's playing chest to ball here, but that's fine. They're able to force a left-hand drive, continue to build a wall. Again, great LockLeft here, putting the body on the right-hand drive, getting the drive to go back left. Really nice job. Great little skirmish, fake help, which is, again, why we play chest to ball to the right of the ball. So if there ever is a drive right-handed, we can give a little skirmish and get the ball going left. Really nice job. Again, plugging the gap. Every time we make them go left, drive right into a gap. We do not want to help out of the gap. We want to skirmish and get back, hedge and recover. What we would do if it was a blow-by is we would peel switch. We don't want to get into rotations, but we will switch on any blow-by. This isn't a blow-by. Help. One pass away, we do not want to help. We will build a wall at the rim. Really good wall possession. I'll let you watch it. And great job walling up at the rim as well. All right, let me show you, let me give you the third thing, then we'll dive into some specific questions. Again, as always, thanks, Michael, for dropping it in here. Using LockLeft in lacrosse, I'm seeing in the chat box. I am learning the game of lacrosse, and there's been a number of lacrosse coaches that have told me that they've used a lot of basketball ideas and concepts, so I love to hear and want to continue to hear how it's working in lacrosse. Okay, let's dive into the third way. So we're going to review. One, your defense can be improved in transition. If you designate roles in transition and build your transition defense from ball back instead of basket out. Make sure that you start the ball left early and then filter in behind it. Then second, find the most dangerous player. That's the most important thing. Second, the audit and the test of your defense is your rebound. And it's not just about boxing out. Of course, there's value in putting bodies on people, and we can talk technique, and we go through things with a lot of that, of course. But if your defense doesn't get compromised, if your defense doesn't get beat, then you're going to be a good defensive rebounding team. But if you're constantly getting beat by dribble drives and long closeouts, then you won't be a good rebounding team because you're always in scramble, and you're always in transition and moving, and so you're not able to build a wall and get good inside position. So don't necessarily look at rebounding so much as are we boxing out. Look at rebounding more so on the strength of our defense. And that's why I don't believe in box out drills. Now I believe in some situational training, but box out drills, excuse me, but box out drills forsake defensive positioning that gets you into the rebound and just provides you good positioning in the box out drill. Which that's not why you don't get the defensive rebound. You don't get the defensive rebound not because you didn't box out, but because you're out of position. So improve your positioning early by building a wall, keeping the ball on one side of the floor, and not rotating and helping and not getting beat, and you're going to be a better defensive rebounding team. That's why every LockLeft team sees their defensive rebounding numbers go up. Not because we teach the most amazing boxing out technique, but because they find that they don't have to help as much, they don't rotate as much, everyone knows where the shots are coming from, and so they're able to build a wall early to carve out space. You're going to be delighted by your defensive rebound if you choose to go all in with LockLeft. Okay, here's the third one. And only the high-level coaches, I think, are going to really get this one. In your LockLeft journey, and I just got back from Tennessee working with a program that's been 5 years in with us. In your LockLeft journey, Initially, your lock left defense is going to appear like a zone. When you initially teach it and you can implement it in just 2 days and go play a game, it's going to look like a zone because your team in transition is going to be executing roles. And it looks like a 1-2-2 or a 1-2-1-1 zone. That's what it looks like. And it should. And it should. As you get better at it, and usually maybe towards the end of your first season into your second and third season, as your players get more comfortable with the roles, they get better on the ball, channeling instead of turning, as you get better hunting passes, building a wall, switching all actions, on and off all screens being switched. When you get good at all of the skills that we teach, then it starts to look like a really good man because players get matched up faster, players help less, players get beat less, and so there's less need for help, and it looks like a really good man with great communication. And then the final iteration of a good lock left team, and I really think this would be the final iteration of a good defensive team, is it tends to go back and look like a zone again. Because now players are able to anticipate, squeeze, and put more bodies in less space. In fact, if you've been watching the conference finals, the NBA playoffs, the Miami Heat's zone looks very much like what an elite lock left team would be doing, where they're constantly matching up and always showing a second body to the ball, while still being able to know exactly where they're recovering and eliminate off the catch threes. So that's the life cycle of, I think, any good defense, right? Any good defense is probably going to go from looking like a zone to a man and then back to a zone, because the best defenses, regardless of what they are, appear as a zone because of how much help and how many bodies you can bring to the basketball. And that's the goal of the lock left defense. And, I hear it in 45 minutes today. We're speaking in high level platitudes. That's why there's over 8 hours of video training in our lock left course. What's up? Happy to see you. Feel free to drop in, anyone that's on live here, feel free to drop in your questions. I'm going to show one last set of video around what it kind of looks like from looking like a hybrid between a man and a zone. And the reason is because you match up in transition. You don't have a player in transition. You don't have a job. So you match up in transition so it looks like a zone. Now, at the beginning of it, you're just going to force early shots, and you're never going to need to actually man up for very long. But then as you get to higher levels, it takes you to higher levels, and you play better teams, well, then you're going to need to actually handle one or two actions. You're going to need to handle some penetrations and your defense being compromised. And that's when you're going to have to get into more of a man-up situation. But then when you eventually get really good at it years down the road, you will guard those actions so much that you're pre-switching screens, you're scrambling people out in the post if they ever get a mismatch, you're overloading and squeezing and turning back penetration right. And so it looks like a zone because everyone's flying all over the place. And here is an example of that. So when it really starts to click and look like a zone, that's when players are able to start hunting passes. And the best way to hunt a pass is with your chest to the ball. And I'll show you two possession examples here of elite defenders and elite teams really playing with this kind of chest to the ball sort of a positioning. So in the lock left, we switch every action. So here's a ball screen, switch every ball screen. Obviously there might be more on the floor. You can't switch a ball screen, and so then we go into kind of our drops and our ice and whatnot, our blue and downing the ball screens. So great job here to switching the ball screen to keep the ball going a little bit left. Great job here in the gap. You'll see how chest the ball Andrew Wiggins is. Now we would like to be in a position where he hunts the pass a little bit more. He's chest the ball in the gap. We got Draymond 2 passes away is chest the ball, and when you're 2 passes away and the ball is in the middle of the floor, we want to be at elbows and boxes. Chest the ball, elbows and boxes. But on this pass, we're moving and locking it left. Now we're trying to keep the ball in jail. Now what you'll see here is 1 pass away. Wiggins is chest to ball. Same thing. We want to be chest to ball from this deny position. We would just need to be more aggressive because we want to keep that ball locked in the corner. We don't want to allow this pass out. But he is showing that chest to ball. So now he's in a position where he's hunting passes out. We don't rotate in the lock left. We always want to guard actions or penetration with no more than 2 players. We won't rotate, but we will switch. So we switch off-ball screens and off-ball actions. We switch on-ball screens and on-ball actions. And if the on-ball defender ever gets beat, if they get beat right or they get beat left, it just triggers a switch. It doesn't trigger rotation. So let's say, for example, in this situation, that Tatum was able to beat Draymond Green right. If he was beat right, 1 pass away, that's why we play chest to ball. 1 pass away, that's a switch. For him just to turn the ball back left and Draymond will switch right up here at the forefront. Well, this is in the NBA Finals last season, where the Golden State Warriors actually made a switch and they identified that percent I showed you earlier. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart were nearly twice as effective driving to their right hand, finishing, making passes, making plays. And their turnover rate was twice as high when they dribbled left. So they started to lock these guys left and make them go left. And this is an outcome of that. On this lock left, we'll see that right there. Draymond's now beat. And when he's beat, it's not rotating, okay? It's not Steph's rotating down and Clay's rotating down and he rotates over and Draymond. We're not rotating. We build the habit of just switching. Switching spots, that's where it starts to look like a zone. You see that Draymond just continues with his momentum, rotates, and is able to hunt that pass. You'll see that Steph stays home on the corner. This is not a rotation, right? He stays home. It's just a switch. And that's when it can really become powerful, because you don't get into rotations, because rotations lead to poor defensive rebounding. You can't build a wall, and you can't carve it out. If you're ever beat, it's just an automatic switch. Here we'll see a couple more situations here. So we see an auto switch, and I want you to see a couple of situations here. So here's the first one. So you'll see how we're playing chest to ball in the gap here as well. And you'll see that she hunts the pass, and she hunts the pass with her outside hand. Okay, outside hand. That buys an extra split second of time. And it also puts you in a more advantageous situation to go up the floor and attack in transition, as opposed to knocking the ball down with an inside hand. You can catch and gather and go with the outside hand more. So almost get the skill there. Doesn't. That's fine. Blocks to the left on this penetration. Really good. And you'll see here, too, Vandersloot. 1 pass away to the right. This is what I would call deny. Chest to ball, her outside hand in the passing lane. This isn't old school deny. This is outside hand in the passing lane. Just discouraging that chest to ball, outside hand in the passing lane. We want back doors. We want to force some cuts, because that's, with our ball pressure, a way that we can get steals and deflections. So where do you see how actively they're hunting passes, chest to ball, not old school deny? There's one. Here you'll see the second one. Here over to the right hand side of the floor is Vandersloot right here. He's hunting it. And then you'll see the same thing here as we're hunting passes. And that's how LockLeft teams, one way, they really are able to increase their turnover rate, is because they're hunting passes so much more aggressively, knowing that 1 pass away, you're not responsible for help. 1 pass away, you're either gapping or denying, but your job is to hunt passes. And if they're ever beat, it's a switch. You don't have to get into a rotation or help situation. Okay, we got 15 minutes left. I've got a list of questions, and I'm going to fire through them, and then we will share an opportunity with you, and then we'll be done. In fact, let me take that back. I'm going to share the opportunity first. Month of June, I'm going to be taking 40 to 50 coaches through a 1-month cohort where I help you implement and teach the LockLeft defense. Along the way, it's the cheat code, is to find someone that's done it hundreds of times, that can tell you what's coming down the pipe, that can tell you what drills, what progressions you should be doing, can help you break down film, can help you look at the over 8 hours of LockLeft teaching in our LockLeft course, and help you interpret, okay, this is what I need to focus on first. This player would be a better wolf than this player, and here's why. This is how we should build our practice planning if we really need to improve our defending the ball screens in our league, or if a team runs a lot of dribble drive action, here's what we need to do. Or if a team goes 5 out, here's what we need to do. That's what I want to help you do. So you can head to SAVICoach.com You can download our app, and any one of our monthly Grow members, I'm going to be working with you, and I'll be doing unlimited film breakdown with you for the month of June to help you implement LockLeft. But you not only, if you go Grow, you not only get the code work, you get access to all of our courses, our brand new SAVI shooting system, 28-day shot transformation. You can teach shooting, you can assign it to your players, have the best shooting team you want. You'll get our race space offense, you'll get our drill book, you'll get all of our webinar library, our teaching tool library, as well as our community chat. So sign up right now, SAVI Grow, head to SAVICoach.com, and I would love to take you through a 1-month cohort to help you join the LockLeft Nation, have the best defense you've ever had. Truly believe it. Okay, let's dive in and answer some questions here. All right, we've got some. All right, Jason. Okay, on the Chicago Sky video, should the weak-sided defenders that were 2 or more passes away have been more in the paint building a wall? They probably would be if they weren't pros. Jason, I think that's a great point. So, obviously, at the pro level, you're going to face your quickest and best shooting. And so, you're going to be less aggressive on the wall if you're guarding a great shooter. And there's more great shooters at the pro level. And yet, I would have had them more aggressive in the paint. Now, we go deep into this in layer 3 of how to actually build your wall. Everything is determined by if we can get the ball to the left-hand side of the floor. If we get the ball in the left third of the floor, what we call jail, if we get the ball to jail, we want that wall to be closer to the midline in the middle of the paint all the way up. Because when we get the ball to jail, that's when we're squeezing up and applying a lot of ball pressure. Not ball pressure to force baseline drives, but pressure to keep the ball left. And so it becomes really hard to make that skip pass because the on-ball defender is in the eye line of the ball handler. When the ball's on the right-hand side of the floor, which is what we saw on that Chicago Sky clip that you're pointing out, Jason, because we're angling the ball, because we're angling to put the ball to jail still through the middle of the floor, they're able to see that skip pass easier. And so I teach when the ball's in the middle of the floor or the right-hand side of the floor, 2 passes away, we call 2 passes away wall. 2 passes away, the wall's elbow in boxes. So it doesn't squeeze it quite as much. Which is another reason that we got to have our wolf start, speed, and lock the ball to the left-hand side of the floor early so that we can shrink the floor, so that we can bring bodies over and more bodies into space. We just decided to do that only on one side of the floor. And the numbers have shown conclusively that it's better to try to get the ball back to the left-hand side of the floor when it goes right, as opposed to trying to lock it to the right-hand side of the floor and then squeeze it. It's at every level, it's conclusive. And I think that's probably one of the biggest cheat codes that we can teach in the LockLeft is not trying to push to both sidelines and play that way, which is how a lot of coaches have played, but saying like, all right, let's battle harder earlier and have our wolves pick up the ball as early as possible, not to pressure it, not to turn it, not to steal it, but just to give and influence the ball to make sure it's initiated on the left-hand side of the floor, because every team runs their stuff worse on the left-hand side of the floor. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Let me flip over here to our email questions, and I will go through them rapid fire. As you can see, there's obviously no way to get through everything in 45 minutes, and that is why we choose to offer up these cohorts and the 8-hour online course for LockLeft. All right, first one from Justin. Justin says, what if a team just dribbles or enters the ball to the right wing instead of the left wing? If they know you're trying to lock left, why don't they just try extra hard to put the ball on the right-hand side of the floor knowing that you're going to lock left? Okay, great question. And here it is. Because we're not letting them. Okay, so like we spend a ton of time early in install of the LockLeft teaching everyone how to guard the ball, and it's a different footwork, especially early into the full court. So if we're just sitting back and not picking up till the top of the key, and we're just packing it in, then the offense can go wherever they want. They can dribble up the right-hand side of the floor, they can attempt to make a pass to the right wing. And so that's why this is a dictating, aggressive identity as a defense is we're picking up 94 feet 100% of the game with our wolf. Whether we're pressing or not, the wolf is picking up as early as they can. And then we have to teach them how to run in the full court and not slide, how to get away from trying to turn and stop someone when they want to dribble left, and how to play nose outside or shoulder with gap so that the ball handler can't go right. And here's what's crazy. Even at the higher levels, ball handlers still try to go right when the defender is standing in their drive line to the right, which is actually what leads to steals. We don't get steals from turning them. We don't get steals from like making great plays on the ball. We get steals in the lock left because ball handlers just keep trying to barrel into the chest of a defender that's standing there. They run into the chest, they get knocked off balance, the ball pops out, and then we gather and go. And that is why, step one, why it's hard to go right. Step two is we designate in transition a deny. And the deny's job is to run to the right of the ball and to find the first player to the right of the ball, the nearest player to the right of the ball, which the majority of the time is going to be the trailer. Majority of the time it's the inbounder or the defensive rebounder that's trailing behind the play, because when we lock the ball left, they trail to the opposite side, they trail right. And so we don't allow a pass up the right, and we are actually standing in the pass line. So it becomes really, really hard to get the ball to the right. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate that question. We move on to the next one from Coach White. Coach White was just asking about a replay. So yes, this replay is going to be live and available here on YouTube, and you'll be getting an email if you signed up for the webinar. You'll get an email with the link to it, as well as some ways to join us for our June cohort. And we can help you put in LockLeft in 1 month for $97. 1 month, you get a cohort, you get live feedback, you get an hour a week with me in the group in the hours. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next question. Okay, how do we prevent scorers from easy kickouts off of left-hand drives? As Coach Mark says, with dribble drive motion seemingly taking over in his area, and kids just looking to drive all the time, when we help from the gap going left, it seems harder to recover to open shooters. Okay, here's step one. We don't want to help from the gap in the lock left. We want to be in the gap in case it's a blow by. We want to get better on the ball, knowing that most ball handlers are going to be weaker driving left, so there won't be as many straight line drives. There won't be as explosive of drives. The passes won't be as accurate on left-hand drives. And even if the left-hand drive does result in a north-south drive that gets towards the rim, they're going to finish at a lower rate on those left-hand drives because they're dribbling and finishing probably with their left hand a lot more. So all of those things allow us to not help from the gap, to not help from one pass away. Instead, we plug the gap and we're there in case there's a blow by. But if the on-ball defender is on the side of the ball handler, like they're not behind, they're on the side or front half, there is only a skirmish from the gap. And a skirmish is a quick fake help and hunt the pass. So that even if the pass isn't made, the gap is moving back to their player. And if the pass is made, ideally they have a chance to make a play on the ball, or at the very least, they're moving in advance and they're moving early, so they arrive at the time of the catch. So we're not giving up wide open threes, we're not giving up long closeouts from the gap. Now, the bottom of our wall on this left-handed drive, whoever's guarding the weak side post or weak side corner, the bottom of the wall, if the ball gets to the K, which is the charge circle or the smile, if the ball gets inside the paint or gets to the rim, well, they're going to get up and contest at the rim. We will show help at the rim. We won't show help in the mid-range. We'll give them floaters. We'll give them mid-range pull-ups with someone chasing them down in the rear view. And so we don't help from the gap. We only switch if it's a straight blow-by that would allow them to get back to their right hand. Then we switch from the gap. And in that scenario, the on-ball defender that was beat, that's behind the ball, is sprinting in to anticipating the pass one pass away from to the left as well. So that's how we address, Coach Mark, that question. And you also asked, is the second helper on the left side helping more or less than the one pass left of the ball handler? So let's imagine a 5-out situation here. And on this 5-out situation, say the ball's at the top of the key. So the left wing defender's in the gap doing what I just said. And the defender for the left corner, if the ball's at the top of the key, would be squeezing down to the box. The left corner defender is going to play the exact same way as the left wing defender if the ball gets down to their level. So we get 2 bites at the apple for a skirmish and hunt the pass. and the second level for a skirmish and hug the pass out to the corner. But both people are also making the decision of, is the on-ball defender beat? And maybe if they are, we're going to an all-out switch situation with the weak side, bottom of the wall, providing contest at the rim, but not outside of the rim. All right, Mark, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that one. All right, last question here. Oh, we're doing great on time. We have 5 minutes left. Coach Ziegler asks, can you explain more about the defensive player to the right of the ball being chest the ball instead of butt to the ball in lock left? And I think we've talked about that at length, actually, so that we already answered that question. But Coach does say he feels like this is a big adjustment for players to change to. He said, well, it does seem simpler in transition. After a couple of passes, what happens? And he got to see me at one of the clinics I did out the Junior Gym. He's going all in on lock left this summer. Awesome coach, really excited. And I will share this with you. There are 3, we'll finish out on this one. There are 3 individual defensive habits that I have observed more so than any other take focus for individual players to develop. 3 habits. And I'll give them to you right now. And, how to train these habits and the drills and the specific triggers and what the lens to look for is really what we train in the cohorts. Habit number 1, not turning the ball when you get it going left. Just because players have been doing, stop the ball, guard your yard, turn the ball, stop penetration, right? Drills their whole life. When we initially get the ball to go left, whether it be in the open court from like a wolf lock or from a close off on the 3-point line, once we get the ball going left, most defenders want to go back and chest that left-hand drive, which allows ball handlers to spin back, turn back to their right hand, or even just pick up the basketball or pull back and reset. We don't want that. We want to have that ball handler continue to go left. And it's so easy to turn left-hand drives because left-hand drives are so bad angled, slow, and soft. And so, defenders like, oh, this is great. Look how easy it is for me to turn it. But then they turn back to their right hand. We're loaded up for the left-hand drive. They turn back to the right hand, and all of a sudden they can see skip passes where we're heavy on the wall, and that's how we get compromised. So both in the full court and the half court, not turning it. And here's what I've seen a lot too, like at the end of dribbles, at the end of post-ups, like they'll get 1 or 2 dribbles, into the paint, ball handler picks it up, and then all of a sudden, the on-ball defender squares up on the ball again, allowing a spin back or a turn back for a left shoulder, little push shot or jump hook. Whereas if we can just sit on that right shoulder and continue to make them finish with that left hand, that's where we get the benefits. So that's skill number 1 that needs to be retrained. Skill number 2 that's harder for them is close off instead of close out. That's why it's its own layer and layer 3 with lots of drills and teaching points and reasons behind it. But if someone catches the basketball on the outside the 3-point line, we want to get them off the 3-point line. We don't want to allow them to hold it there. We don't want to allow any off-the-catch threes. It's how LockLeft teams guard the 3-point line so much better is we just don't allow off-the-catch threes. We make them take one more dribble. We make them dribble off that 3-point line. And so sprinting and sitting in a proximity to make sure that they dribble, as opposed to high hand, choppy feet square, which allows closed outs to be driven to the right hand, changing your angle, changing your footwork, changing a sprint and sit as opposed to chopping it up. That's a big adjustment that players need to be drilled on every single day if you're going lock left. That's number 2. Number 3, and it's what prompted this answer from Coach Ziegler, is playing chest to ball, off the ball, across the board, everyone. Simplicity wins. And if they are never thinking about how they should play, if everyone's just going chest to ball wherever they are, and then from chest to ball, they can try to, we don't want to let the ball go right, I'm denying. We want to get the ball further to the left, I'm plugging the gap. But if everyone's playing chest to ball, there's less thinking. There's already going to be the learning curve of, we're denying things to the right, we're gapping things to the left. let's not also make them change their physical body position. Let's let them get chest to ball first, and then they can creep into and grow into what they're trying to be doing from that situation. And when you can do it early, you won't have to deal with lots of ball reversals and lots of shifting into it out of the gap. When you can start that ball and lock that ball in jail early, by your wolf, denying gap, all working together to funnel that thing left, everything becomes easy. All right, we got one last question. How do you defend a team that goes high-low, especially if it looks like a zone? Yeah, so your last two defenders are your bear and your wall. Bear going to the rim, wall going to the nail. And we set it up that way just for this. Because a lot of teams do try to attack it out of horn sets. They do try to attack it out of a high-low look. And that wall is matching up with the high post. And on that high post, if the ball does go left, we're playing chest to ball, 3/4 front, so we're not even allowing the ball into the high post. And so they don't even get the ball into the high post. And with our ball pressure, we're actually trying to get that ball driven down into jail early so they can't actually get high-low. Okay, Brian, you're welcome, my friend. I'm glad that it helps. So in that answers your question, Eli, is that a deny? All right, I really want to help you guys crush it with your LockLeft. Head to SAVICoach.com, sign up for a month. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If it's not worth your money, for Savvy Start, which is $47, for Grow, which gets you the cohort and the feedback from me for $97. If it's not worth the money, I won't give you your money back. But I believe it will be. And we'd love to have you join the Savvy community, even if it's only for a month. We'll be doing another webinar next month as we continue to rotate through new cohorts to help you play smart, tough, and clever basketball. I'm off to Denver to go teach LockLeft to 5 teams starting tomorrow at our Savvy team camps. Cannot wait. And until next time, stay savvy.